It's that time of the year again when tourists are unwinding and traveling across the world. Dubai has gone from transit hub to a tourist destination, and it's open for business. Our reporter eNCA's Heidi Jockers is there and joins us now live, of course, to talk about this. Heidi, I am so jealous that you are in Dubai. I could see you there trying to settle yourself in. And while you do that, I mean, I understand that you actually flew in Sunday night. You arrived there in the morning, of course, in such an uncertain time. I mean, can you tell us, if you can hear me, colleague, I mean, how was it like flying for the first time to Dubai, especially during this pandemic?
Yes, indeed, Tumelo, I can actually hear you. I must say that there was a lot of uncertainty and anxiety, given the fact that I have not done a long international trip since about 2018, and now with COVID-19, there's so much uncertainty, there's so many new rules and regulations, but what creates a lot of certainty is the fact that there is definitely more measures put in place to ensure that passengers feel a lot safer. We flew from Johannesburg to Durban and then from Durban to Dubai. So normally it's an 8-hour flight, but that actually took about 11 hours. And that was a much longer flight. But the cabin crew is well equipped. They are in full protective equipment and gear, and they make sure that everybody feels safe and secure. There's enough measures in place. The food is covered up. They sanitize the airplane almost every 15 minutes, and they make sure that they sanitize the bathrooms as well on the aircraft every 15 minutes. It's a bit difficult to social distance in an aircraft, but they try as much as possible to ensure that you adhere to the rules and regulations, but also, Tumelo, to make sure that you wear your mask. You have to wear your mask at all times. You're only allowed to take your mask off when you're eating, and that is a very strict rule here in the UAE, that you have to keep your mask on. But let's listen to what the cabin crew told us on the aircraft when we were flying in.
Our company has provided the personal protective equipment for us, so we do wear the visor at all times, the gloves as well, the mask, and the gown. The gown is changed every 4 hours, and we change our mask as well. They have provided measures for social distancing as well on board, so our services have changed over the time because of COVID. We've also provided passengers with travel hygiene kits, which keeps them protected as well because of COVID. So we're kind of prepared for it, and we sanitize regularly. Our bathrooms are sanitized every 15 minutes, the toilets we checked. So yes, we have prepared really well for it.
Now, Heidi, I understand that Emirates Airline has, offered travel insurance, which I can assume should be a bit more given that we are in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic at this point.
Yes, so travel insurance is, of course, an option for many tourists flying, whether it's on Emirates or any other airline. But what's significant about this travel insurance is that there are more options and benefits to this travel insurance, given the fact that we are facing a pandemic and, there's a lot of uncertainty and nobody really knows what one will expect when they travel. If you contract COVID-19. So we had a sit down, quite a lengthy sit down with Emirates while we were here in Dubai, just to get a sense of what they've done to make sure that everybody feels safe and protected, because it's not just about the cabin crew, but also about tourists. It's a confidence factor. Are tourists safe enough? Are they confident enough to travel? Are enough measures put in place to travel? So we understand there's almost like an extended kind of insurance for tourists when flying, to make sure that they are protected. But it's also vital that the tourists take it upon themselves to be responsible, to have that COVID-19 negative test when traveling, to make sure that they are able to travel. And the UAE does not require for you to quarantine for 14 days. It only requires you to have a negative test that's not older than 72 hours. And when you're leaving as well, you also need to test. And as I mentioned again, you have to wear your mask. There are very strict rules here in the UAE. But let's listen to what Emirates told us about their new cover insurance.
It's actually an airline industry first multi-risk travel insurance, which we will be providing to our customers at no cost. This is, again, in addition to the COVID-19 coverage, which we already have. So there's no cost to the customers. This is for all tickets purchased on and from 1st of December 2020. Some of the things that the travel multi-risk travel insurance covers is loss of personal belongings. You have personal accidents. You have winter sports coverage, and you have disruptions due to air closure. So these are some of the things that this multi-risk travel insurance covers.
I have to say, though, kudos to Emirates taking that responsible decision there to protect, their clients and customers. But, okay, so what happens then when you need to travel back to South Africa? Do you need to test again? How does the process look like?
Yes, indeed, Tamela, you need to test again. We actually got our COVID-19 tests done yesterday morning, and we've already received our results. We received them very late last night. Unfortunately, we are all negative. So there's definitely that regulation that you have to adhere to when traveling. So you have to make sure that you test before you land in the UAE. It has to, of course, be negative, and before you leave. But what's also interesting is that there are certain countries, if you're flying from certain countries, perhaps if they're on the hot list here in the UAE, you need to perhaps test again at the airport, or if you're showing any kind of symptom, then they will, of course, isolate you and test. But I must say, Tumelo, that the technology here in the UAE really assists in trying to curb the pandemic and trying to limit the number of positive cases here. They have a very low infection rate and a very low death rate because they're trying as much as possible. But the UAE is, of course, a connecting hub. Many would say it's the center of the world where many connect to in terms of not just business, but also tourists when connecting to other countries. So it's imperative that you do test and you adhere to the rules and regulations. I'm not sure if I'm going to come back, though, Tumelo, because I must say it's very safe here, and it's in terms of the rules and regulations, you do feel quite safe in terms of the measures that have been put in place for tourists to make sure that they are protected, but also to enjoy a short break.
What a patriotic South African you are. What a loving colleague you are. I thought I meant so much more to you than a trip, but you know what? Have a good time there. I look forward to seeing you back. Thank you so much. Heidi Jockers there joining us from Dubai.